of the things I wanted to ask you, and I think this kind of combines some of the questions together, but are there any pieces in this contract? So, we have the you have to stay married piece, which I'd love to actually maybe start getting your thoughts there on the piece that
Yeah.
you have to stay married, because that was a personal experience that I had to go through.
Yeah.
And
Love that.
yeah, and then also like, are there parts of this contract that you look at and you're like, I don't know if that's legally enforceable. So we can start with the weddings and maybe or the marriages and go from there.
Yeah. So in the contract, you have to stay married until 1 year after this, until 1 year after filming, right?
Hmm.
Or 11 months after the wedding date. It was like whatever's the later of the two.
Yeah, I
So
actually. Oh, do you want me to read it? I have it in
yes,
front
read
of me
it.
because yeah. So couples have to remain married until the initial broadcast of the last episode in which I appear, or 11 months following the wedding date, whichever is later.
Hmm. Right. So that one is a shocker, but I think people kind of were suspicious because, the divorces would come out after 1 year if people divorce. The thing about that clause is it's probably the most crazy clause because you're bringing in the freedom to divorce into this like reality TV show contract. It's wild. It's really like an overreach of what you're trying to control. But at the same time, some states don't let you divorce before a year. So it depends, like, how you look at it. The state that a person might have entered that contract in could have had a 1 year requirement because some states do make you stay married for 1 year. And then you're like, well, that's not so crazy. But from a perspective of like a contract having control over your freedom to divorce, it just it doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem like something a court would uphold. I don't think that there's any way that if you divorce before 1 year and as long as like you can in the state you're in, I don't see a way where if they try to take legal action, a judge would enforce that contract clause and make you pay whatever fine or damages. It's just it's just too crazy. Like there are so many situations. A person could be, abused. A person could
Hmm.
be afraid. It just could be bad for their mental health. There are so many situations where keeping someone locked in a marriage could be life threatening. It's so dangerous that they would want to put that in their contract, that kind of requirement.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I know when um, my divorce happened, it was a very much like I was concerned about this part because they can, for each contract breach, you're on the hook for $1 million in liquidated damages. So I was concerned that divorcing before, and you get like a pickup letter too, right? For after the altar. So there's a moment where basically it extends the life of your contract. I think the original contract has a piece in there about that. And so my I was served divorce papers before after the altar had aired. And so I was concerned that they could sue us for those liquidated damages because, when you file a divorce, it becomes public record. So
Mhm.
I was served probably on a Wednesday or a Thursday. And then TMZ leaked the divorce that following Sunday, because it was public record. And I woke up to like 100 texts, a million DMs, family calling, all sorts of stuff because it happened very quickly. But that whole process there, like the added stress of going through this like newly public life, this relationship and marriage that was very real. And a lot of people, I think, look at it, including people in my life, and they don't think they don't take it like it's a real marriage or it was a real relationship because it was on TV, right? But it was like there was a lot of pain and loss, and then doing it in the public eye and not being able to tell people on my own timeline that this wasn't, going to be going forward. And then, of course, all the speculation. And then on top of that, like, am I going to get sued for $1 million? Like, it's
It's
an
crazy.
unnecessary stress when you're in the public eye and you're married to someone that you met through this experience. And it's just, to me, it's just such a crazy piece that I personally experienced and had stress over because it would have ruined my life to get sued for $1 million.
I was just thinking that whole thing, the threat of $1 million lawsuit over your head really controls you. And I have to imagine that all of those threats, maybe one person was gonna leave during the pause. No, there's a threat of 50,000. Maybe someone wasn't gonna show up to the altar. No, there's a threat of that. You want a divorce. Like all of these things essentially control the decisions you make in your life that are important decisions. And maybe you don't want to continue being on TV. You're really losing your freedom to choose how you live your life during this period of time because they have this money that they're holding over your head that you probably can't pay. So that's really scary and it doesn't seem ethical. I don't know how it would hold up in court. These are newer types of contracts. But for me, I think that when people enter a contract, and when you enter a contract with a very serious party, like production of a huge show on Netflix, you don't feel like you have the power to break that contract. I know that you must have thought, there's no way around anything I signed because it's ironclad, because they wrote it and they gave it to me and they're big business people, and I'm just a regular person. So
Yeah.
there is that conception that anything you sign is binding. And I think that part is kind of like unfair to everyone who signs it because they probably make decisions thinking that everything in there is enforceable, even if it isn't. Even if that divorce clause would never hold up. I'm sure a lot of people are way too afraid to even test it because who wants to risk a potential $1 million lawsuit? That is
You're
just,
exactly
it's too big
right.
of a risk.
And I remember getting the call from Netflix that they weren't going to come after me for $1 million. And it was like, unfortunately,
They
the only
called to
time I
let you
really,
know.
yeah, because I was worried about it. I was talking to the publicist from the production company, and I was like, I'm concerned about this. Like, I'm not in any control of this process at this point, and I've asked to just wait. I asked for a few weeks to just like separate, to like clear my head and figure out, is there a path forward for us? In that time, I was served. And so I was just kind of like shell shocked in a continuous state of, a heightened nervous system of my marriage ending. I didn't really want it to end. And now am I going to have to deal with a lawsuit because we're ruining after the altar release in
Was
a couple
Danielle
weeks?
that she wasn't scared of the lawsuit, potential
Um,
lawsuit?
I don't
She
think
wasn't
she
thinking about it?
I don't think she was thinking about it in the same way that I was thinking about it. We had different upbringings too. So I think like there was a different financial mindset when it comes to
I
something
mean,
like that, where I grew up, lower middle class, poor, every dollar counts. And so, I look at it like $1 million, I lose my house, I lose everything.
yeah.
And I just don't think that based on, her coming from a little bit of a different, financial situation, thought about money in this case the same way I did.
Okay.
And that's my interpretation. But and to be clear, like, she and I are fine well, we don't really speak, but like, we've cleared the air and, have
Listen,
have a I don't know what's the right word to use that's not going to spark any controversy, but we're cordial. That's the word I'm looking for.